My husband left us. Because our son had cancer, then told everyone I was the one harming him. I shut him out completely. Months later, he came back disguised as hospital staff to rescue our child. 14 years ago, when my 9-year-old son was battling leukemia, he came to me one day and asked, "Do you even want me to get better?" Turns out he didn't say that because he himself thought so, rather because my ex-husband told him last weekend that, "Mommy isn't trying very hard for you." That broke my heart. My son had been battling cancer since he was 5, and his illness was the reason my husband left us in the first place. When Mason first got diagnosed, I dropped everything to become his full-time caregiver. I was there for every chemo treatment, every hospital stay, every time Mason vomited into the basin asking if Dad would be here soon. But Dad was never there. Dad was at the bar, drinking with friends and laughing about how sweet life was. He left us 3 years into Mason's treatment, citing he was sick of coming second in my list of priorities. I asked if he was serious. He was. He packed his bags and left in the middle of the night, not even telling our son bye. Yet somehow he was still given the weekends with Mason. It made no sense. He didn't even want Mason. I never understood why, but now it was clear. He wanted Mason so he could turn him against me. After Mason's question that day, Derek's interference quickly ramped up. He started attending parent support meetings, something he had never done, and at them started proving he was the better parent. In front of the others, he would loudly question me and start arguing about what the doctor said, roll his eyes when I spoke, and subtly imply Mom was the reason Mason wasn't getting better. I was mortified, because that couldn't be further from the truth. In reality, every time Mason came home after spending weekends with my ex, he was quieter, more withdrawn. He stopped eating much and started dreading going to the hospital. Then, after a particularly bad weekend, Mason came home pale, shaky, and running a fever. He curled up on the couch, barely moving. Derek said it was just a little cold and I shouldn't overreact again, but my instincts knew better. I rushed him to the ER. The doctors told me Mason had missed his critical treatment 2 days earlier. When I confronted Derek, he smirked and told me that real parenting is knowing when your kid can get better on his own, and that I was the reason Mason dreaded treatments. His words stuck to me, making me second-guess everything. Maybe I was pushing too hard and hurting my son. The guilt nearly crushed me. And to make matters worse, Derek served me court papers. He was claiming I was medically neglecting Mason, forcing him into treatments he didn't need. My heart sank. I realized he'd been building this up all along, setting me up to look like an unfit mother. Things spiraled fast. Derek started posting selectively edited photos online, showing Mason crying in hospital beds, or me looking exhausted and frustrated. He twisted these pictures to make it seem like I was emotionally unstable and harming our son. My own friends stopped calling. Neighbors whispered behind my back at the grocery store. Even my family started doubting me, wondering if Derek's stories had some truth to them. Meanwhile, Mason got worse. He barely spoke, losing weight rapidly, and had dark circles permanently under his eyes. His little body was shutting down from stress and missed treatments. My lawyer advised me to meticulously document every doctor's appointment, every dosage, every moment of care. So, I started gathering evidence, determined to fight back, even though part of me was terrified I'd lose Mason forever. Then, one afternoon, Derek's smear campaign exploded online. He painted me as a dangerous parent, gaining thousands of sympathetic comments from strangers who called for Mason to be taken away immediately. I felt utterly alone, judged by people who didn't know our story. Mason saw it too, and he started breaking down, saying he didn't want to go to court, didn't want any more fighting. He looked broken, and I felt responsible. The day we walked into the courtroom, I was terrified. Derek sat confidently across from us, already smiling like he'd won. When Mason was called to testify, my heart froze. But he surprised everyone, even me. He stood there, frail but steady, looked right at the judge and said, "My mom never hurt me. She's the only one who's ever tried to help me get better. Dad tells me to skip treatments. He says they're not important, but they are. Mom is fighting for me. Dad just pretends." The room went silent. Derek's face fell, losing his mask of charm instantly. He tried to interject, but Mason kept talking, his voice stronger now. "I'm tired and sick all the time because Dad makes me feel like treatments are bad. He told me Mom didn't care about me, but Mom's the only reason I'm still alive." The judge looked stunned. I'd never been so proud of Mason, but my stomach was in knots, waiting for the verdict. Finally, the judge spoke clearly, his voice firm. He awarded me full custody immediately, demanding supervised visits for Derek pending psychological evaluation. Mason and I both broke down crying, right there in court. Derek, humiliated, stormed out of the courtroom, but before he left, he leaned close and whispered bitterly, "I'm not done yet. That kid is mine." A chill ran through my body at his threatening words. The bailiff stepped between us, noticing Derek's aggressive posture. My lawyer, Sophia, quickly wrapped a protective arm around Mason and me, guiding us toward the exit. Mason trembled against my side, his small hand clutching mine with surprising strength. "Don't worry about him," Sophia whispered reassuringly as we navigated the courthouse hallway. "He's just lashing out because he lost. The judge's order is clear." But I knew Derek better than that. His threats weren't empty words, but calculated promises. The look in his eyes conveyed not just anger, but dangerous determination. The following weeks brought unexpected calm. Mason's health improved noticeably once his treatment schedule stabilized. Color returned to his pale cheeks, and I even heard him laugh again, a precious sound I'd missed desperately. The supervised visits with Derek remained tense, but proceeded without incident under the watchful eye of Mrs. Hernandez, the court-appointed supervisor who maintained detailed records of each interaction. I cautiously began hoping Derek had accepted reality. My parents visited, tearfully apologizing for doubting me during Derek's campaign. A few friends reached out with similar regrets, admitting they'd been wrong to believe the lies. We seemed to be rebuilding our shattered lives until I noticed a red sedan parked across from our house 3 consecutive days. On the 4th morning, I spotted a platinum blonde woman photographing our home with her phone. When I approached, she quickly drove away. The next day, I discovered a business card in our mailbox reading, Vanessa Winters, Child Welfare Advocate, with a phone number and official-looking logo. Sophia investigated and confirmed it wasn't a legitimate organization. 2 days later, Mason came home from school visibly upset. A woman matching the blonde stranger's description had approached him during recess, claiming she was working with his dad and asking if he was still being forced to take medicine that made him sick. The school immediately contacted me when Mason reported this to his teacher. I was installing security cameras that weekend when an unfamiliar number called. Something urged me to answer. A hesitant young woman introduced herself as Lily, Derek's girlfriend of 6 months. She whispered that I needed to know what Derek was planning. My blood ran cold as she explained that Derek had actually been dating Vanessa Winters for nearly a year. Vanessa wasn't a child welfare advocate, but a former nurse who'd lost her license for medication theft. Together, they were plotting to regain custody of Mason, convinced they could cure him naturally, without medical intervention. Lily revealed they had been monitoring our house, documenting our schedule, and knew when Mason was home alone. I immediately contacted the police in Sophia. The officers took a report but explained they couldn't take action without direct evidence of a threat. Sophia filed for an emergency restraining order, though the hearing was days away. That night, I moved Mason's bed into my room and obsessively checked every lock. Around 3 a.m., headlights swept across my bedroom wall. Through the blinds, I spotted Derek's truck parked down the street with Vanessa in the passenger seat, both watching our house. I photographed them with shaking hands and called the police, but they were gone before officers arrived. The next morning, I received a text from an unknown number. Mason deserves parents who understand real healing. We're going to save him from you. I forwarded it to Sophia and the police. Officer Rivera visited to take another report, looking increasingly concerned. We'll increase patrols in your neighborhood, he promised. I'd recommend you both stay somewhere else for a few days if possible. We quickly packed essentials and relocated to my parents' house across town. I notified Mason's school and medical team about the situation. Everyone offered support, though their concerned expressions revealed their worry. Mason sensed the tension despite my attempts to shield him. Is Dad trying to take me away? He asked that night as I tucked him into bed in my childhood room. I balanced honesty with protection, explaining that his father and girlfriend had incorrect ideas about his medicine, believing they knew better than doctors. I promised I wouldn't let anyone take him away or interrupt his treatments. Mason nodded solemnly. Dad's girlfriend told me the medicine is poison, but I know it's not. It makes me feel better. I embraced him tightly, amazed by his wisdom despite everything he'd endured. The next day brought positive news. The judge had granted emergency restraining orders against both Derek and Vanessa. Additionally, Derek's supervised visitation was suspended pending investigation. My relief was short-lived. That afternoon, my mother called in panic. A blonde woman, claiming to be Mason's aunt, had attempted to remove him from school, citing a family emergency. The school had followed protocol perfectly, refusing to release Mason to anyone unauthorized. Security cameras captured clear images of Vanessa attempting to sign Mason out. Officer Rivera arrived with a colleague to review the footage and take statements. This is attempted kidnapping, he confirmed grimly. We have enough for arrest warrants now. I felt overwhelming relief at his words. Finally, there would be real consequences for their actions. The officers explained they would seek warrants immediately. My parents insisted we remain with them until Derek and Vanessa were in custody. That night, I lay awake in my childhood bedroom, listening to Mason's gentle breathing from the air mattress beside me. Moonlight illuminated his face, emphasizing his fragility. Despite the restraining order and pending arrests, Derek's threatening words echoed in my mind. My phone buzzed with a text from Sophia confirming our court date for the permanent restraining order was scheduled 2 weeks away. She advised continued vigilance. The following morning, I updated Dr. Patel, Mason's oncologist, about our situation. She immediately offered to adjust his treatment schedule and provide additional security during hospital visits. We can also arrange for a hospital social worker to document everything, she suggested. The more evidence of your consistent care and Derek's interference, the stronger your case. I gratefully accepted her support. Later, I found Mason watching me from the doorway, his thin shoulders hunched forward. Are we hiding from Dad? He asked quietly. I invited him to sit beside me, explaining we were being careful until police could ensure his father and Vanessa would stop bothering us. Mason climbed up slowly, his movements still lacking the energy of a typical 9-year-old. I heard Grandma talking on the phone. She said Dad tried to steal me. My heart sank. I'd hoped to protect him from the worst details. I explained that his father and Vanessa had incorrect ideas about what was best for him and had tried to take him from school without permission. Mason nodded thoughtfully. Vanessa told me hospitals make people sicker. She said she knows special medicine that would cure me faster. His expression suddenly hardened with determination. But I told her, Doctor, Patel is smarter than anyone and I need my real medicine. I hugged him tightly, pride swelling despite our circumstances. 3 days passed without sign of Derek or Vanessa. Officer Rivera informed us they hadn't been located at Derek's apartment or known associates' homes. Their phones were turned off, and Derek had emptied his bank account 2 days earlier. They were actively evading arrest, suggesting they weren't surrendering but planning something else. My parents' house began feeling like a prison. I took leave from work, afraid to leave Mason even with my parents watching him. We kept curtains drawn and doors locked. Mason's energy improved with consistent treatment, but the constant tension affected everyone. A week after the school incident, my mother received a strange call from someone claiming to be from Child Protective Services. The caller identified herself as Brenda Kowalski, stating they needed to conduct an emergency welfare check based on multiple reports of medical abuse. My mother wisely asked for credentials and a callback number. When we contacted the actual CPS office, they confirmed no one named Brenda Kowalski worked there, and no case had been opened regarding Mason. They're trying to access him through official channels now, Sophia explained. It actually indicates they can't reach him directly because of our security measures. The following day, Mason had a scheduled treatment at the hospital. Dr. Patel arranged for us to use a private entrance with a security guard accompanying us throughout. The hospital staff had been briefed, with photos of Derek and Vanessa distributed to security. The treatment proceeded smoothly, with Mason proudly displaying his superhero bandage afterward. We were walking toward the exit with our security guard when I noticed a hospital custodian watching us intently from down the hallway. Something about his posture triggered my instincts. When he realized I was watching, he quickly turned away, but not before I glimpsed his face beneath the cap. "That's him," I whispered to the guard, tightening my grip on Mason's hand. "That's Derek." The guard immediately radioed for backup while positioning himself between us and Derek. I pulled Mason behind me, backing toward the nearest nurse's station. Derek abandoned his disguise, dropping the mop and advancing toward us. "Mason!" he called with disturbing calmness. "Son, come here. We're going home now." Hospital security converged from both directions, trapping Derek. His face contorted with rage as he pointed accusingly at me. "She's culling him with these treatments. My son is being poisoned in this hospital." Security restrained Derek while he continued shouting accusations. Mason pressed against me, trembling. A nurse quickly guided us to a private room while police were called. Officer Rivera arrived promptly, and Derek was taken into custody, still ranting about natural cures and medical conspiracies. I provided my statement, feeling simultaneously numb and relieved. One question remained unanswered. "Where's Vanessa?" I asked Officer Rivera. "They've been working together." His expression turned grim. "We're still searching for her. Does Derek have other connections to the hospital? Any friends employed here?" I remember Derek mentioning his cousin working in hospital administration during a parent support meeting. Officer Rivera immediately contacted someone to check employee records. We returned home with police escort. Mason fell asleep during the drive, emotionally exhausted. My father was waiting anxiously when we arrived. "There was a woman here," he reported immediately. "Blonde, claiming to be from Mason's school. Said she needed to update his medical records." My blood chilled at his words. "What happened?" "I didn't open the door. Told her all communications must go through you directly. She left, but not before photographing the house with her phone. I immediately called Officer Rivera, who promised to send a patrol car overnight and urged continued vigilance. Derek was in custody, but Vanessa remained at large, potentially more desperate now that her partner had been caught. That night, I received an email from an unfamiliar address with the subject line, "For Mason's sake." It contained a video of Derek earnestly explaining his research into alternative cancer treatments. He claimed chemotherapy was a pharmaceutical company scam, and that leukemia could be cured through special diets and herbal supplements Vanessa had supposedly used successfully with other patients. "If you're watching this," he concluded ominously, "it means I've been silenced for trying to save my son. Vanessa will continue our work. Mason deserves the chance to be truly healed, not poisoned." I forwarded the disturbing video to Sophia and Officer Rivera, feeling physically ill. Derek wasn't merely misguided. He was dangerously delusional, having found someone who reinforced his dangerous beliefs. The next morning brought disturbing news from Sophia. Derek had been granted bail, with conditions including no contact with Mason or me, and surrendering his passport. The judge deemed him not a flight risk since he had supposedly turned himself in at the hospital. "But he didn't turn himself in," I argued frantically. "He was trying to take Mason." "I know," Sophia sighed. "His lawyer presented it differently, claiming Derek was just trying to see his son and became emotional. The video you sent strengthens our case for the permanent restraining order, though. It clearly demonstrates his concerning mental state." That afternoon, Mason's school called about a large gift basket delivered for him containing a teddy bear, books, and snacks. The card read, "Get well soon. Natural healing is coming. Love, V." The principal wisely withheld it from Mason and contacted police. Officer Rivera confirmed the basket contained several unmarked bottles of supplements hidden among legitimate items. They were being tested to determine their contents. This incident prompted Sophia to suggest temporarily relocating to a different city until legal proceedings concluded. "Derek and Vanessa know all your routines here. A change of location might provide better safety." I initially resisted, concerned about disrupting Mason's treatment schedule and schooling. However, after the gift basket incident, I recognized staying posed greater risks. Dr. Patel helped arrange Mason's care transfer to a respected oncologist 3 hours away. My company approved remote work arrangements. Within a week, we were settling into a small apartment under a different name through a victim protection program Sophia had recommended. Our new location brought mixed feelings of relief and isolation. Nobody knew our history here. Mason began treatment with Dr. Lawson, who was kind but unfamiliar with his case nuances. I remained hypervigilant, constantly checking locks and scanning for threats. 2 weeks later, Officer Rivera called with welcome news. "We've arrested Vanessa Winters," he announced triumphantly. "She was caught breaking into your parents' house, apparently searching for information on your whereabouts." Both Derek and Vanessa now faced serious charges: attempted kidnapping, stalking, harassment, and in Vanessa's case, practicing medicine without a license. The district attorney was building a compelling case against them. My relief proved premature. The very next day, I received a Facebook friend request from Tara Jenkins, a new profile with only one blurry selfie of an unrecognizable dark-haired woman. Something prompted me to check her friend list before declining. Among her few connections was a page titled Derek's Truth Journey that I'd never seen before. I reported both the friend request and the page to Facebook and Officer Rivera. Within hours, the Truth Journey page was removed, but not before I'd seen disturbing content claiming Mason was being held hostage by medical terrorists and soliciting donations for his rescue. "They're still not giving up," I told Sophia during our next conversation. "Even facing serious charges, they're continuing to pursue us." "The good news is they're becoming desperate and careless," she replied. "Each attempt provides additional evidence. The DA is now considering adding conspiracy charges." A week later, while grocery shopping during Mason's treatment with a trusted nurse, I received a call from an unfamiliar number. "Is this Mason's mother?" asked a professional-sounding female voice. "Who's asking?" I responded cautiously. "This is Nurse Chambers from Dr. Lawson's office. There's been a situation with Mason's treatment today. Nothing serious, but Dr. Lawson requests you come immediately." Heart racing, I abandoned my shopping cart and rushed to my car. Something felt wrong about the call. I contacted Dr. Lawson's office directly while driving. "Mason? He's fine," the receptionist assured me. "His treatment is proceeding normally. We don't have any Nurse Chambers here." I nearly crashed with a shocking realization. I immediately called police, then instructed the clinic to secure Mason until I arrived with police escort. At the clinic, I found Mason safely in a treatment room with 2 nurses and a security guard. Security footage showed a blonde woman, Vanessa wearing a wig, entering the building shortly after I'd left with Mason that morning. She'd been turned away at reception when she couldn't provide identification as a family member. "But how?" I asked Officer Diaz, who responded to my call. "Vanessa was arrested. She should be in jail. She made bail yesterday," he explained grimly. "Officer Rivera tried contacting you, but apparently the message didn't reach you." I checked my phone and discovered a missed voicemail from earlier that morning. The realization that both Derek and Vanessa were free again triggered intense panic. Our protection program, relocation, and precautions suddenly seemed woefully inadequate. That night, after triple-checking locks and barricading the apartment door with a chair, I watched Mason sleep peacefully, unaware how close he'd come to being taken. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "We know where you are now. This isn't over. Natural healing is Mason's only hope. We're coming for him." I forwarded the message to Officer Diaz and Sophia, taking screenshots as evidence. My hands trembled as I placed the phone down and pulled Mason closer. His small body radiated warmth, his breathing steady despite the chaos surrounding him. I wouldn't let them win. I couldn't. The next morning, I arranged for a security guard to be present during all Mason's remaining treatments. Sophia contacted local police, who increased patrols around our apartment complex. We were essentially living in a fortress, yet even that provided insufficient security. 3 days passed without incident. I began hoping the threatening text was merely final intimidation before Derek and Vanessa's upcoming court dates. Mason's energy improved with each treatment, and he even asked to visit the small playground visible from our apartment window. I regretfully declined, suggesting a blanket fort instead. We spent the afternoon constructing an elaborate living room fortress complete with flashlights and snacks. Mason's laughter filled our apartment, a precious sound I'd missed during our darkest moments. For a few hours, we pretended everything was normal. A sharp knock at 2:17 a.m. jolted me awake. Heart pounding, I crept to the door and peered through the peephole to find Officer Diaz standing in the hallway with a grim expression. I quickly unlocked the door, keeping the chain engaged. "We've arrested Derek and Vanessa," he announced without preamble. "They were found parked 2 blocks from here with disguises, fake IDs, and detailed plans to abduct Mason during tomorrow's clinic appointment." My knees nearly buckled with relief. "How did you find them?" "Anonymous tip," he explained. "Someone overheard a couple at a diner discussing plans to rescue a sick child from medical kidnappers. The caller thought it sounded suspicious and reported it. I later learned the tipster was a waitress named Amber, whose nephew had leukemia. She recognized the dangerous rhetoric from anti-medical treatment groups online and trusted her instincts. This time, both Derek and Vanessa were denied bail. The evidence was overwhelming. Not just their presence near our location, but detailed notes about Mason's treatment schedule, clinic floor plans, and sedatives they planned to administer. The district attorney added attempted kidnapping and conspiracy charges to their growing list of offenses. For the first time in weeks, I slept through the night. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for the following month, with Sophia assuring me Mason wouldn't need to testify this time. The evidence spoke for itself. The prosecutor, a no-nonsense woman named Janet Reeves, expressed confidence in their airtight case. 2 weeks later, we received news that Derek had agreed to plead guilty to reduce charges for a shorter sentence. The agreement included a permanent restraining order, mandatory psychiatric treatment, and surrendering all parental rights to Mason. Vanessa, facing additional charges for practicing medicine without a license, was proceeding to a separate trial. An immense weight lifted from my shoulders. Mason and I could finally return home. Our homecoming was quieter than our departure. My parents had maintained our house beautifully, even planting fresh flowers in the garden. Mason's school welcomed him with handmade cards from classmates. Dr. Patel embraced us both during our first appointment back, her eyes shining with relief as she reviewed Mason's improved test results. "The consistent treatment is paying off," she confirmed happily. Gradually, our lives rebuilt. Neighbors who once whispered now arrived with casseroles and offers of assistance. My sister Jennifer, who had wavered during Derek's campaign, became our most frequent visitor, often bringing her children to play with Mason when his energy permitted. 6 months after Derek's sentencing, I discovered a letter from his prison among our mail. My instinct was to destroy it unopened, but I instead asked Sophia to review it first, ensuring it didn't violate the restraining order. "It's a formal relinquishment of parental rights," she confirmed. "He's waiving all future custody or visitation claims, even after release. There's also a personal note you can choose to read or not." I waited until Mason was asleep, before reading Derek's personal message. His handwriting appeared neater than I remembered. I was wrong. "The prison psychiatrist has helped me understand that I was using Mason to hurt you, not help him. I'm sorry. He deserves better than what I tried to do. Please tell him someday that I'm sorry, when he's old enough to understand." I folded the letter into a box in my closet. Perhaps someday Mason would want to read it. That would be his choice when older. 1 year after Derek's arrest, Mason completed his final treatment. Doctors would continue monitoring him closely, but his prognosis was excellent. We celebrated with a small backyard gathering. Mason, now 10, had regained weight and energy, running with his cousins like any ordinary child. My mother pulled me aside during the celebration, her eyes misty. "You did it," she whispered, squeezing my hand. "You saved him. Twice." I watched Mason laughing as he played tag, his movements strong and confident. The dark circles beneath his eyes had vanished, replaced by childhood's healthy glow. He caught me watching and waved, his smile brighter than I'd seen in years. That night, while tucking him into bed, Mason asked an unexpected question. "Mom, are you still scared?" I considered my answer carefully. "Sometimes," I admitted, "but not like before. Now I'm just regular mom scared, like when you climb too high in a tree." He nodded thoughtfully. "I'm not scared anymore," he declared with childlike certainty. "We won." I kissed his forehead, my heart overflowing. Yes, we did. Later, rocking gently on the porch swing under starlight, I reflected on our journey. The fear hadn't completely disappeared. I still double-checked locks nightly and startled at unexpected knocks. But it no longer controlled us. We had reclaimed our lives from Derek's manipulation. Mason's oncologist had recently mentioned his 5-year survival odds now exceeded 90%. 5 years seemed simultaneously eternal and fleeting. I contemplated the ordinary moments awaiting us. School projects, birthday celebrations, teenage disagreements, college applications. Normal life challenges that once seemed impossibly distant. The porch light cast a warm glow across our yard as I continued rocking. For the first time in years, I wasn't scanning for threats in the shadows. Instead, I simply enjoyed the evening's tranquility, making plans for tomorrow, next week, next year. We were going to be okay.